Story time how I almost got jumped. Literally. For a little bit of background, I was living in Palmdale, California, and we all know the best stories come from Palmdale, clearly. And I was in the 4th grade, so I was a little baby. I was literally like 4'8" height-wise. There was this girl that lived down the street from me. Let's call her Samantha. And me and Samantha were like besties. We were besties. Today we had like a falling out, but all I remember was it was her fault. Stop being friends. She was in the 5th grade, so she was 1 grade older than me, but like she lived down the street, so it wasn't like a big deal or anything. It's after school and I have to literally walk a mini little desert, and it takes me like 10 minutes to walk it every day. So at the end of walking this literal desert, you walk into a cul-de-sac, and the cul-de-sac is basically like the desert is at the end of the cul-de-sac, and it kind of like, if you know what a cul-de-sac is, then you know what I'm talking about. But as soon as you turn the block, there's like an ice cream truck, and all of these kids would always go to the ice cream truck, like the people who would walk home, because I only lived like 3 blocks away, so I would walk home. I turn the block, I go to the lovely little ice cream truck, I'm getting my hot Cheetos with cheese, and where the ice cream truck is in like a neighborhood. So there's like a little green patch of grass that's kind of like a little mini hill, and a lot of kids would just like sit on their backpacks and like wait for their parents if they were getting picked up. There were 3 girls that were there, and I like distinctly remember them because they were 6th graders. So I'm in line for the ice cream truck, and all of a sudden I hear the 6th graders. They're like, oh yeah, da 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 da, she's a B, she's a da 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 da. They were just talking mad, and I was like, oh, they can't be talking about me, like there's other people here. They absolutely were talking about me, and I'm gonna have to finish this in a part 2. Part 2 of how I almost got jumped. So we left off on the girls basically talking mad, you know, that stuff to me, and me not thinking like that they were talking to me, but they were absolutely talking to me. So I'm walking away with my hot Cheetos and cheese, and they're talking that mess, and they were like, yeah, walk away with you and your ponytail. And I was like, I turned around and I was like, me? And they were like, yeah, we're friends of Samantha, and she told us what you did. And I turned around and I was like, what'd I do then? And then they were like, that you left a big mess at her house, and that you were in it for revenge, and this and this and that. I was like, girl, if only Samantha told you what she did. I don't even know, you guys. If Samantha really had a problem with me, she could be a big girl and come tell me. So then I kept walking with my hot Cheetos and cheese, and I'm gonna walk home because I'm like almost 2 blocks away. They were following me, kept walking. And so then they're like, you know what? They dropped their backpacks down. They're like, are we gonna do this or what? Are we gonna fight? Are we gonna fight? And it's this big 6-foot monster with her 2 like 5-foot minions beside her. And I'm like 4'8". So I was like, I could either fight, or, you know, it's not even gonna be much of a fight. It's gonna be much of a beat down, because I'm gonna get my beat point blank period, because there's 3 of them and 1 of me. So I just turned around and I said, no, I'm not gonna fight you. Like, if Samantha really had a problem with me, then she can fight me. That clearly wasn't good enough for them, because I'm 10 yards in front of them, pretty much just telling them, I don't want to argue with you, like, leave me alone. And they're now starting to run after me, excuse my French, but run after me. So naturally, I start running as well, and I'm like 1.5 blocks away from my house, and I was like, I could do this. I could run in my sleep. I'm gonna book it home, and then I'm just gonna get to safety, basically. The worst thing that could have possibly happened to me happened to me. I faceplant into the concrete, and I didn't even have time to react. I jump up, look back. They're still running after me, so I'm booking it. I'm probably like 1/2 block away from my house. They're screaming at me to fight them. I'm not fighting them. I finally get home. I lock the door behind me, and my sister looks at me, and she was like, what did you do? What's going on? I tell my sister I'm about to get jumped, and she was like, well, what did you do to almost get jumped? And I was like, I didn't do anything. And she was like, well, you're safe now, I guess. And she just started laughing because she thought it was really funny. We had 2 weeks left of school, so I just told my sister to walk me home every day so I wouldn't get jumped. And that's the story how I almost got jumped. Like and comment for more stories.
Y'all, please pay attention to your surroundings and trust your intuition. Yesterday, I was on my way to the store to make a return, and I got to the stoplight and I noticed this car pull up next to me, and his window was rolled all the way down. And my windows are tinted, so I didn't think much of it, but I can tell that he's looking over at my car. So I'm like, okay, whatever. The light turns green, we both pull forward, and I pull behind him because I need to turn into the parking lot. We get stopped by another stoplight, and at this point, I'm behind his car, and I can see him looking at his side mirror the entire red light. Like, he just keeps looking in his side mirror. And at this point, I was starting to feel a little bit weird because, yes, my windows are tinted, but when the sun is out, you can still see into my car. So I was like, is he looking at me? The light turns green, we both pull forward. I turn on my signal to turn into the parking lot. He turns on his signal to turn into the parking lot. So then he pulls into the parking lot, I pull into the parking lot. He goes one way, I go another way. So I was like, okay, that was just weird. Like, let me go on about my business. Now there are several stores in this plaza, so I find the store that I need to go to and I park my car, and something just tells me, don't get out the car. Like, don't do it. So I'm just sitting in my car and I wait a couple minutes and I see him pull in front of my car. And I'm like, okay, he slows down a little bit and then he just keeps going. And at this point, I'm starting to feel like really alerted. Like, this is really odd, right? So I wait in my car for another minute or so, and then I see him circle my vehicle again for the second time. And at this point, I'm taking pictures. And in the pictures, you can literally see him looking at my vehicle the entire time he's passing my car. So I wait in my car for another 5 minutes or so, and I don't see him, so I just shake it off and I go into the store. As I'm walking into the store, I look back and I see him literally sitting in his car in the same row, like where my car is parked, and he's just like a couple spaces down. And there are plenty of parking spaces available, so he's just sitting there. So I go into the store and I make my return, and I spend like a good 15-20 minutes just like walking around, just trying to calm myself down. So I leave the store and I'm looking around the parking lot and I don't see his car anymore. So I'm like, okay, phew, like that was weird. As soon as I get near my car, I look over and I see that he's parked in a spot and he's watching me walk to my car. He sees that I see him and he looks at me and he goes like this and starts smiling. So I get in my car and I call my mom, I call my best friend. I'm just trying to figure out what to do because at this point, like, I know he's watching me. So I sit in my car for like 10 minutes and I finally get a hold of my best friend, and this entire time he's still watching me. So I pull off and drive to my nearest police station. So I filed an incident report, and thank God I got pictures of his vehicle, his license, and him. So the moral of the story is to pay attention to your surroundings and trust your intuition, because if something doesn't feel right, most likely it's not.
I almost unalived myself at a trip to the lake with my friend and his family. I wouldn't consider myself a thrill-seeking adrenaline junkie. One thing I am is a down A B. I'll do things and then I'll just consider the risk later. For example, I almost unalived myself. As a little bit of a backstory, I've never been to the lake before, okay? I went to a lake once to go fishing. It was a bad experience and I never wanted to do it again. I'll keep that in mind. We're having a good time and my friend's brother is doing backflips off this freaking cliff right here. And I'm like, oh my, that looks so cool. I'm gonna do it too. Mind you, I've never gone cliff jumping before. I mean, I've done the San Diego La Jolla cliffs. Those are like tiny cliffs where you're like, oh, wee, fun. These are legit cliffs that we're jumping on. There's rocks at the bottom. I also do not know how to backflip. I don't know how to backflip. Little old me, cause I'm just like, oh, that looks so fun. I'm about to backflip off this cliff. And it's like, they know I'm inexperienced. And they're like, Kayla, are you sure you want to do that? And I'm like, yeah, like he did it. Of course I want to do it. It looks so fun. How hard could it be? I didn't even complete the backflip at all. There are rocks there and I'm just free falling. There are rocks at the bottom of that water that were so close to my head. So fun as I did it, but after I got up, I was like, that probably, I should have maybe thought about a few. No experience, just vibes. That's how we. So that's it. Am I down? Yes. Will I consider the risk next time? Maybe.